your client in survival mode all the time, perhaps you should calm the amygdala. So, the amygdala is always part of the brain that's stimulated, and it gives us it gives us that fear factor, really. That's about primal survival emotions. That's one of the things that the amygdala governs. So yeah, if you know how to calm the amygdala, I'd love to know. But other than brain training, I don't know if there's any like herbal remedy for that specifically that affects the amygdala, because I doubt there's any research on that. But we can make inferences. We know some of these anxiety calming things probably have an effect on the amygdala. Of course, breath work and all of those, heart math is another one. I don't know if you know heart math. Sluggish, no energy test might need. Okay. Yes. So what you want to know here is that essentially hypothyroidism can mimic depression. And so in standard, even standard allopathic medicine, even the worst physician around will do this as a basic screening. This is not rocket science, thank goodness, because there are many cases where someone has just a thyroid issue. They're not chemically depressed, they're just hypothyroid. So giving them serotonin-ish drugs and treating their depression is a waste of time if you don't fix the thyroid first. In general, most women that have menopause symptoms are very classic, and it's more on the anxiety side. In fact, it's anxiety and insomnia that are the most common mental or emotional menopausal symptoms, besides the hot flashes, night sweats, and vaginal dryness. Of course, those things happen as well. But we're talking about the mental state. The biggest thing for menopausal symptoms is blood sugar. It's the changes in blood sugar. So for a person who is thin before menopause, they typically do not have as big of changes, fluctuation with any kind of sugar or carbohydrate use. But for a person who is used to a higher carbohydrate diet, they're typically the ones that have bigger menopause symptoms, especially if they make a major change to that carbohydrate in either way. So actually what I noticed, a friend of mine did a lecture, and she's a gynecologist, and she did a lecture in January about this. And she said, you know why you're having more hot flashes after Christmas? It's because of the sugar and the partying and the alcohol. So I will often have women who just get better blood sugar control, meaning they stop alcohol, stop eating all cake and cookies and flour, and their symptoms of menopause go away. It's pretty amazing. So 90% or a large contribution of diet. Okay. Thyroid's important. So pay attention to that. Eyes wide open, distracted, very worried about conspiracy theories. So, the person could be manic and have paranoid schizophrenia, or more commonly, they could just be hyperthyroid. Their thyroid is working a little too quickly, and they're stimulated. So you got to check those things. At least I do as a primary care person. I have to make sure that they're not having hyperthyroidism attacks. I've got to make sure that they're not just overly stimulated, and that's the calm the adrenal, before I start calling them bipolar or manic or schizophrenic, So yeah, there's a lot of things in play in the system as we work through mental health issues. Oh, there you go. Since menopause, your client has lost the zest for life and seems sad. So it's not impossible, just not as common. So there's an increased estrogen, right? There is nothing that a blood panel of hormones, of sex hormones, will tell me that I didn't know from the conversation with female sex hormones specifically. All right. Don't take sedatives when taking stimulants. Isn't that like a trick question, right? But people actually do this, and they're like, I don't know why I don't feel well. And I'm like, well, why are you using uppers and downers and uppers and downers? Another definition of anxiety that I find is when our perceptions and our ability and our resilience does not match the pressure of society that it puts on us. So sometimes what we have to do as herbalists is also make expectations realistic. All right. So the point is, why would you take uppers and downers at the same time? You're confusing brain chemistry, but I will say that is absolutely common in the allopathic community. There is absolutely no harm in it. As a nurse practitioner with just nurse practitioner training, no one ever said there's a problem giving Adderall in the morning and Klonopin at night if it's indicated for that patient.